All righty, welcome back from the episode of Two Plane Sports. Today is Friday, November 18th, the day before Bedlam. We released our preview video of the Bedlam game. If you missed that, that was actually released on Thursday, so be sure to go check that out now or after this video. And we went in depth on that game and our predictions for that. And then today's video. It's the last home game for the Sooners. It's going to be a huge recruiting weekend, a big time recruiting weekend. A lot of people would have thought that this type of recruiting weekend wouldn't have been possible with OU being 5-5 and the troubles that they've been having. Well, believe it or not, it's happening. And there's going to be multiple 5-stars, tons of 4-stars that will be visiting between the 2023, 24, and 25 classes. So we're going to be talking about who's going to be visiting, and then we're going to be talking about our Friday locks, our bets for the weekend. I think Jose loves the board. I think he's got like 13 of them or something insane. So it's either a big swing and miss type of weekend or a home run weekend for Jose. So also we gave away our tickets Thursday's video. At the time when we're recording this, we have not received an email. So we are giving away the tickets to someone else. So now everyone's pumped that your hopes were true for everyone but the guy that won yesterday. So today's winner for these tickets will be Okie Trades. We see you commenting a lot. I watch a lot of our videos supporting, so we wanted to give that to you, and we assume that you are local considering your Okie Trades, with Okie in your name. So if you would like to go to the game, email us, let us know, and we can get those tickets over to you as soon as possible so you can go to the game on Saturday. If we don't hear from you by Friday night, we're probably going to be giving away to one of our friends in the Oklahoma City area. So if you want them, great. If not, totally understand. All right. Before we get into it, just want to say we appreciate it. We're knocking on the door 5,200 subscribers. The jump from 51 to 5,200 has been slow, but we're almost there. Hit the subscribe button, turn the notification bell on, like the video, comment on the video, stay for the end of video challenge. Be sure to comment and like on the video, even if you already are subscribed, because that helps us out a lot. And then follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Apple, and Spotify. Everything's linked in the description below. All right. So we'll get into it. As I alluded to earlier, there's going to be a lot of 23, 24, and 25 guys that will be visiting. And we'll start with the officials of the 23 class. None other, the biggest recruit in the 2023 class, that are the biggest target that OU is after, is 2023 5-star defensive lineman David Hicks. David Hicks is visiting officially this weekend, where, at one point I kind of felt like that official visit was never going to happen after him committing to Texas A&M. Obviously, it's going to happen. He just recently visited Oregon unofficially this past weekend, and now he's coming up for an official at Oklahoma this weekend. It seems like he's not totally sold on Texas A&M. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. It's everyone's favorite 5-star, right? It's kind of what I pretty much trademarked him over the last few videos, because for a while there, leading up to his recruitment, people were tired of hearing about him. Clearly, after he kind of blindsided Oklahoma, people were not huge fans, which is fine. It's just the nature of the beast in recruiting. But like you said, the fact that he's still coming, he's still taking visits, and this one's official. The fact that it's official, I feel like it's a good sign for Oklahoma. I don't think we should get our hopes up entirely, because from what's been reported, two big factors into this. NIL, as everyone suspected, is going to play in a role, but it's with what the Crimson and Cream collective is doing, and the president of the university and Josie endorsing it publicly, that people should be donating to that. The fact that the goal is set for like the week, it's supposed to end the week before early signing day, or like leading up to it, then clearly there's a sign that they're trying to do everything possible to get the money needed for Hicks so that Oklahoma can compete financially with A&M for Hicks. Factor number 2 is his friend. Damian is going to be a big part of this. If Oklahoma can show him that he is going to be a big part in this team, can blend in with with the crowd. I think what is going to be really the biggest thing here is the fact that there's going to be so many guys of the 23 class on campus with them. If he feels comfortable with them, Oklahoma should be in a good spot as long as they can fork up the cash, which I think they'll be able to, but it's not like A&M is in a much better position competition wise. They just underperformed by a lot. Like they were the number 6 team going into the season, and I know Oklahoma was highly ranked as well, but at least Oklahoma still has a shot mathematically to be bowl eligible. A&M has been eliminated for the last 2 weeks, the last week or so. Pretty much, I don't think anyone really expected them to win the last 2 games that they had. They should win this weekend against, I believe their opponent is UMass. If they don't, it's going to be hilarious, but they should. So really, I think they've kind of beat themselves up with this recruitment. And then they lost Hill as well. And LSU is really trying to snag a couple of their DB commits right now. So A&M is in a world of hurt if Oklahoma is able to snag I believe it's their lone 5-star at this point in this recruiting class, and LSU is able to snag their top-rated DBs in this 23 class.
And as we've talked about in previous videos, I'm glad we're not in Texas A&M's position because it's not a pretty position. Looking at A&M's schedule, they've lost 6 games in a row. You got to think that plays a factor into David Hicks's decision. Not that Oklahoma's winning a lot either, but the thing is Oklahoma's limited on official visitors, like what they can official visits that they can offer these kids. And with a late offer of Damian Sanford because Caleb Spencer, decommitted from Oklahoma and flipped to Miami. His position became available, and they offered Damian Sanford. And they offer Damian Sanford and then immediately extend him an official visit, and which are already, very limited as is. If Oklahoma felt like they had no shot with David Hicks, they would, 1, have not offered Sanford, and 2, would not have offered both official visits or honored both of them because they could have been used elsewhere. So the fact that they're allowing and encouraging them to come, it has to, you get the feeling that Oklahoma feels like they have a legitimate shot. And obviously we all thought that Hicks was going to be OU's guy, it was all but over. I mean, for a while there, until he, pulled a rabbit out of his hat in, late September, and he flipped and he committed to Texas A&M. I do think it's going to come down to NIL. I do think that Damian Sanford and him and Hicks are a package deal. They're best friends. They're teammates. They went and visited Oregon together. They're visiting Oklahoma together, and they're committed to Texas A&M together right now. I think they're a package deal, and I think OU's prepared, obviously, to take both of them. I don't want to get my hopes up, but if Oklahoma looks good this weekend, and hypothetically, if Texas A&M does lose to UMass, I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility. I mean, they did lose to Appalachian State. I mean, it can happen. It could happen. And maybe he won't be an Aggie. Maybe he'll go to Oregon. And it just seems like it's OU, Texas A&M, and Oregon. And that's kind of who we thought it has been this entire time. And we thought OU was ahead there. I don't know. So I don't want to get my hopes up. My expectations are extremely low. But I just think the fact that he's showing up and OU's honoring that with his best friend, I think it says something.
That's fair. And the defensive line play, I don't think is going to be too big of a factor in Hicks's decision because it wasn't before. He was silently committed for a long time, and how the defensive line played doesn't seem like it was a huge factor in why he went to A&M. If any play on the field is going to be swaying one of them, it's going to be Deshaun White and how he plays to show Damian the expectations he has position-wise. He is being recruited, linebacker, cheetah, that hybrid position. So if he feels like he's athletic enough, and he could very well may be to be an impactful player at that position, then it I feel like it'll bode well for Oklahoma. We just can't have terrible linebacker play, which is it's really going to be, can we stop the running game, or can we stop Spencer Sanders from running all over this defense? Which TBD, but that's not like their Oklahoma State's running backs are amazing right now.
Very questionable. Very questionable. So obviously we're going to be keeping a close eye on both those guys for official visitors, their official visits. I wouldn't expect a decommit if that was to happen, to happen right away. I feel like this is going to be something that Hicks would just like sign on early National Signing Day and throw the hat on of whatever school, and that's his announcement. Like, I don't like the way he committed to Texas A&M is kind of that way, where it was just out of the blue. And I feel like he could just be committed the entire time, and then he just flips to another school on signing day.
Yeah,
So
and for the most part, with the guys that we're going to talk about today, I think really we shouldn't expect any announcement anytime soon for the most part. I watched a little bit of Drum Thune's live stream yesterday, and they think that maybe we hear about one within a week. With how this staff has done everything throughout this cycle, even hearing about one commitment within a week of these visits would be surprising because of how slow they play everything. They want people to really feel 100% sure, and one visit may not be it's usually one visit isn't going to make them 100% sure. Maybe they'll silently commit, but we won't know that maybe for a couple of weeks before or of their announcement.
And at this point, what's the point of announcing publicly before early National Signing Day? I mean, at this point, you might as well just announce in front of your high school and just commit then, at least publicly. The other official visitor and the only other official visitor this weekend is Ashton Sanders, 2023 three-star defensive lineman from Los Angeles, 6'1", 270 pounds. He's coming in for an official visit. He was a late offer by Oklahoma on October 31st. OU obviously has lost Fossick and lost out on Hicks and a few others, and they felt a need to at least branch out and try to make sure that they get the depth that they need. So Sanders was offered and immediately scheduled an official visit. And if you look at his offer list, OU is the most prestigious football-wise that he has to date. So I think if OU really wants him, impresses him, I think OU could get him. And the fact, again, that OU's honoring and taking an official visit with him must mean that there's legitimate interest and that OU is willing to take him as a full-time scholarship player.
Yeah, agreed. The fact that these three are official visitors, and mainly with Sanders, was where I feel comfortable with maybe him being the one guy that would announce early, pretty quickly after this visit. Again, my expectation is not that they will announce within a week even, but he's the one guy that I could see, hearing in a couple of days after the visit that he really enjoyed it and could potentially be announcing something relatively soon.
I would agree. I mean, out of the three, Sanders would be the one that wouldn't shock me, and I would be happy to get him because he's talented and versatile, and we need the depth. So getting a guy like him, and you're competing against Wisconsin and Cal. It seems like Wisconsin's probably the biggest competitor, and with Wisconsin firing their coach and a little turmoil up there, I feel like OU's able to win this out if they push hard enough. I think they went out with him. So now there's a bunch of unofficial visitors in the 2023 class, and most of them are OU commits right now. PJ Adebore, Jackson Arnold, Caden Green, Heath Ozida, Jacoby Johnson, Dalen Smothers, Eric McCarty, are all OU commits. They're all coming in unofficially on their own dime or their family's dime, and they're coming to visit for the game. I think that quiets all the rumors with PJ Adebore coming down all the way and driving here on his own dime. Any other guys. I mean, Jackson Arnold obviously has been talked about that he could be decommitting, whatever. All these kids are showing up even after this rough season. I feel pretty good about it. Now, the other big fish that's visiting, and we've talked about him at length, and it's just like a broken record, is Peyton Bowen. Peyton Bowen's coming for like his, 12th visit unofficially. Coming to visit, probably coming up with Jackson Arnold. I'm guessing him and Jackson are probably riding up together because they're best friends. And Peyton Bowen, a Notre Dame commit, continues to visit Oklahoma. We were talking before this video, and honestly, my expectations are I have higher hopes for David Hicks flipping than Peyton Bowen. That's where I'm at. Like, I don't feel like it makes too much sense for him to commit to Oklahoma, and for some reason, I just feel like it makes too much sense, and he's not going to.
I mean, it's very possible. Well, with him, and he said it himself, he's taking his sweet time. He's not going to let anyone rush him. I think it was like halfway through his high school season, he even said, if there's a school that is really pushing me to commit, I'm not ready to do it. And if they decide to move off me, that's fine. I guess it wasn't meant to be. He's got him in that position. He knows he is a very sought after safety. I think the fact that he's still visiting is what is good for Oklahoma. And it's very well documented. Jackson Arnold, very good friend of his girlfriend, was it now a week ago, officially signed to play soccer at OU. If he doesn't sign with Oklahoma, if he doesn't flip from Notre Dame, those plane tickets are going to take a big chunk of his NIL to be visiting his friend and girlfriend during the off season of football or whenever he's got time during the bye week. You might as well just flip, because it's nicer to have that whatever $400, $300 that he's going to have to pay every other week or however many times he visits the people going to OU. I don't know. I'm not to the point where you are, where you're kind of just like, it seems like this is just to have a good time. Maybe I'm still very optimistic, which is weird because people have called me very pessimistic over the last 6 months or year that we've done this podcast. But and then one of the reasons that you felt not so confident is because it's not an official visit. Notre Dame does not allow it. Clearly, there's still something holding. He's still holding on to that commitment at Notre Dame. But a flip could easily come, and we said it in last week's recruiting video. This next month before National Signing Day, we're going to see a lot of flips, and we've already seen a lot of flips in the last couple of weeks. I think the biggest one is probably Jaden Rashada from Miami to Florida. Those two schools are going back, are battling for a lot of players in each other's recruiting classes. We're doing the same thing with A&M. A&M has been trying to really push for Jackson Arnold. It's not working for them, but we're pushing for David Hicks and then one of their targets in Peyton Bowen as well. Luckily, Oklahoma and our coaching staff have built a relationship with those players where Jackson Arnold's sticking around, and he's been very adamant, no matter what rumor you hear, he's going to be the Sooners 2023 quarterback. And I think there's a chance that these two guys flip. Again, I wouldn't put it, over 50% odds that they will, but there's still very good possibilities for Oklahoma here.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
That's all you need.
Yeah.
All you need is a chance.
And that's what I think a lot of people need to have with both Bowen and David Hicks and Sanford visiting. The expectations should be none, should be zero. You should have no expectations of them committing to Oklahoma or flipping to Oklahoma. That's the way I'm operating. If it happens, great. I'm going to be excited, but you just can't put all your eggs in one basket. And that's what Oklahoma's doing with offering Ashton Sanders. They're also hosting a few unofficial visitors as far as that are OU offers that are defensive backs, a JUCO defensive back in Kendall Dolby from NEO. And then there are also a whole offering or not offering. They're hosting Taylor Wine, I believe that's how you say his name, Wine. He's a recent offer. He's a defensive end, and then also a from my high school, Devin Robinson. He's not offered by Oklahoma, but he's currently committed to the University of Tulsa. He's a defensive back. He's coming for an unofficial visit. I feel like Devin Robinson would receive an offer if Peyton Bowen signs elsewhere or tells them I'm done. I'm not coming, I'm not committing to you guys. I think Devin Robinson would be in line to get an offer quickly after. So they're keeping their backups. At least they're keeping the connections and warm and open. That way, if David Hicks and Peyton Bowen don't work out for them, they have options and not put all their eggs in one basket.
I'm going to disagree with that last point because of something Venables said in his press conference, in his midweek press conference about Oklahoma State. Something he pointed out was that OSU has a lot of in-state players, and he made a point to mention that that's something he wants to focus on during his time as a head coach of Oklahoma. It would not surprise me if that player from Tulsa and then
Devin Robinson.
Devin Robinson, and then Dax Collins, a 2024 safety, also from Oklahoma. They should leave this weekend. I would hope they leave this weekend with offers. Dax Collins has been on campus multiple times. I'm surprised he doesn't have an offer at this point. With what Venables said, I would be more thrown off if they left empty-handed than just getting offers. And I know there's like committable offers, or maybe they would get a preferred walk-on spot, kind of like who was the kid earlier in the year that got a weird preferred walk-on position? It was Chapman McCown, where it was like
the Norman North guy.
Yeah, there's like a walk-on, but there's something going on that no one really understands, where he's getting some aid. Whatever the situation is, that's kind of my expectation for every player that's in the state of Oklahoma visiting the University of Oklahoma. If they're a fit, they're probably going to leave with an offer.
And it could be possible. I just don't know if they'll look more towards the portal because they are limited with spots. Because they're going to lose most I think there's a high likelihood that Woody Washington leaves and they need depth back there. Harrington's going to be gone. So it's going to be interesting to watch, and it'll be something that maybe you're right. Maybe he does leave this weekend. Maybe he does get an offer before or after the game. It'll be something to watch. At least Oklahoma's talking with him. Now, talking 2024, we won't talk about every 2024 guy just because it's not the highest priority. But I think the biggest one is none other than David Stone, not David Hicks, David Stone. Updated rankings came out. He is a 2024 5-star, 6'4", 270-pound defensive lineman from the IMG Academy, originally from Oklahoma. Number 4 overall and number 2 defensive lineman in the 2022 class, or not 2022, 2024, class. Coming in for an unofficial visit. It feels like that this is a long time coming. I'm not expecting a commitment out of him, but man, I'd like to think that Oklahoma's in a prime spot for him.
Again, I'm going to disagree with you here. Michigan State is pulling out all the stops, and I don't know what needs to be done, but someone needs to tell Mel Tucker to go back north and recruit in that area and stop trying to take all these Oklahoma kids, especially the ones so close to Oklahoma. He took By Joe, which I understand it's not like he was a born and raised Oklahoma fan, but he's right there. And he managed to take a guy from OU's backyard. If he manages to pull a huge upset, and I don't expect it, but it really seems like Michigan State is making a big push for Stone, not only would fans freak out because it seems like this was Oklahoma's commit to lose from the very beginning, from the moment that even when he was still in Del City, he was Oklahoma's to lose. It would be a bad look for this staff, for Bates and Venables, if Stone doesn't commit even early on. I think people would freak out if he's not one of the earlier commits. But if he doesn't commit by next summer, it's going to be tough for a lot of fans and especially for the staff, because he is born and raised an Oklahoma fan. You can't let Michigan State come in. I know he doesn't play in Oklahoma right now, but can't let him come in and take another guy from your backyard.
I just don't buy the Michigan State hype. If he's going to go elsewhere, I just don't. I know he's been visiting Michigan State, and I get it. I just don't think long term that's going to be a spot where he's going to go flourish. And I don't know. I mean, he probably likes Mel Tucker. That's probably what he really likes. He probably likes the coach.
Seems like a cool guy.
Yeah, I just don't think that he'll really sit down and think about it. Be like, you know what, Michigan State can develop me to be elite. He's going to stay in the Southeast, Southeastern Conference. I don't know. If you're a top defensive lineman outside of going to Ohio State or even Michigan, why go to the North? I mean, not many people do.
I agree, but they're doing it. A lot of those C4 guys, I think the coach's name or trainer's name is Sean Cooper. He runs C4 and has manages or assists on with some of these guys for their recruiting. I'm not saying that in any way they're getting pushed to go to Michigan State, because they're also regularly visiting OU, but the connections are very well established with C4 and Michigan State. So they're going to do, Michigan State and Mel Tucker are going to do everything possible to get David Stone away from Oklahoma. And if that happens, I'm not saying it will, but I mean, 3 months ago, we didn't think there was any competition. We were like, all right, he's taking his visits because Venables, that's his policy. Take your visits everywhere before you make your commitment to us, because we want you to feel 100% sure. And maybe this is one where it's going to bite him in the ass, because he was very, very sure. Maybe not 100%, but he was pretty sure early in his recruitment. And now Michigan State's making a very big push. I hope it doesn't happen, and I'm not expecting it to happen, but crazier things happen in recruitment all the time.
Luckily, it's 13 months away from early National Signing Day, so there's a lot of turns. There's a lot of time. So a few other guys that are visiting are Eli Bowen, little brother of Peyton Bowen, coming up with his older brother, Nigel Smith, 2024 4-star defensive lineman. He's a top 10 defensive lineman in the class out of Melissa, Texas. OU's in a pretty solid spot with him. You like to think where they're at, with how close Melissa, Texas is to Norman. You got to feel good there. Stacey Gage is coming in as well, who's also, Oklahoma, originally from Oklahoma. And there's going to be more. I mean, there's plenty of guys that are going to be coming in that you feel good about where Oklahoma's at with the 2024 class, even though that there has not been a commit yet. In the 2025 class, which it's even hard for me to even believe that we're starting to talk about 2025 already, is Noah McHale is visiting. He's from Laverne, California, 2025 5-star linebacker, the number 3 linebacker in the class. Obviously, way out in the future, and we're over 2 years away from early National Signing Day. But getting him on campus, that's something, right?
There's also CJ Simon from Moore, Oklahoma, wide receiver. There's even a 2026 guy visiting this weekend. Like we're going pretty far, and that's recruiting game. You gotta get in pretty early. The 2026 guy's a quarterback from Stillwater, so you gotta really establish those relationships early on. Kind of weird that this is the game that they decide to host them for. It is an unofficial visit. So it's not like Oklahoma's spending a large amount of money on this individual, but it could be an opportunity, kind of like Colton Bosick, where they're visiting to watch the game where it's a rival versus the school you grew up with or the school in your hometown. And I mean, hopefully it's not the same situation where, this 2026 kid in 3 years or 2 or 3 years decides to commit to Oklahoma and then flip to OSU. But, similar situations where they're visiting for OU for their hometown school.
It is a little odd that 2026 is already starting to at least be identified for. So, but you know what? Before we know it, we're going to be right there, and it's going to be they're going to be signing here in just a few years. But so there's going to be more kids that will be visiting. We didn't cover them all, and obviously we'll have a recap video on that. Do you have any more to add or any more thoughts on the recruiting weekend overall? Can't complain. I mean, they're 5-5, having a lot of talent on campus. They're making a push to close out 2023 strong, and we'll worry about 2023 now, and we'll worry about the future classes down the road. This is the only one. 23 is the only one that matters right now.
If you guys do want us to cover that 2026 class when their time comes, make sure to hit the subscribe button, leave a comment, because that's a lot of years from now, and who knows where the internet's going to be.
6, yeah. So now we can move on to our betting section portion. Jose, you've got like 13. I'm 34, 28, and 1 overall. What are you overall?
I am 37, 33, and 1.
All right. So you go ahead and just like rattle off like 7 because I don't love the board as much as you do.
I love the board every weekend, and we only got a few weekends left, so I'm going to take full advantage where I think I can. So I'll just read off this one sticking up for now. First game, Oklahoma -7.5. I said it in Wednesday's video. I know most of you didn't watch it. Go back and watch it. It's a good one, previewing the Bedlam game. But I feel confident. I had a very similar feeling with this game as I did the Baylor game. As long as Oklahoma can play a good game, not a great game, not a perfect game, we should be able to cover this. Now, hopefully the offense can step up. I think that's really it at this point in the season. That's my biggest question mark because of the performance of the last 2 games. If they can figure it out, Oklahoma should win this by 8 or more. Next game, TCU -2.5. I feel like I kind of just want to root for them. The national media is starting to frustrate me. They're all kind of just throwing them aside because it's TCU. They're really starting to get dinged because they're not the big brand, even though Texas, leading into last week's game, Texas was the favorite. And if they would have won, we'd probably be hearing about how Texas has the chance to somehow sneak into the playoffs as the only 3-loss team to ever even be put in that conversation. It just seems ridiculous to me. So I'm going to take TCU just to stick it to all the national media, especially Feinbaum. That guy sucks. Oregon +2.5, and they're at home. Let me look up who they're playing real quick. They are playing Utah. Utah's a good team. I think that people kind of throw away the home field advantage for Oregon, but having to go up there to Eugene is not an easy travel. I think that in itself is a big advantage. Oregon fans show up. I think they should be the favorites. They had one stinker of a game last week, but before that, they were being talked about as a potential playoff contender. Not really sure what happened there. Just because they had one bad week, now they're underdogs at home. So give me the +2.5 there. LSU -14.5. They're also at home. I think after last week, they're going to want to, show that they're the team that should be representing that side of the SEC. Sorry, I should have written their opponents, but regardless. Next game on my list here is the over or under 65.5, Ole Miss, Arkansas. I know Ole Miss can score. Arkansas has had trouble doing that, so I don't really feel like they're going to even sniff that many points. I could be wrong, but Just that 65.5 seems way too high. Tennessee, I've got 2 on that game. I've got Tennessee to cover. They are 21.5 point favorites right now, and against South Carolina. It's in South Carolina. I don't really know how much their fans show up, but Tennessee has shown that really outside of the Georgia game, being on the road doesn't affect them too much. They put points up on anyone. So I've got them to cover the 21.5, and then I've also got the over. They're also at 65.5. Last week, Tennessee scored 66 on their own. I don't think they'll do that again this week, but they'll probably put up 40, and then Spencer Rattler and the Gamecocks can probably throw up another 25, 26 points to help cover that.
All right, man, tearing it up. All right, so you want to alternate now? Did you went through like 6 of them or something, right?
Yeah, I've got 6 left.
Okay. First one, you talked about OU OSU. I think OU wins 35-31. As I said on our Wednesday's video, I'm taking OSU plus 7.5. That's a lot of points for a team that I don't trust to show up. I know it's a rivalry game. They should show up. In theory, they should have shown up for the last 2 games as well, but they just haven't. So I'm taking OSU plus the points.
My next one is Clemson minus 18.5. They're at home against Miami. Miami looks terrible. I just think that because it's at home, Clemson's offense should be able to figure it out. I mean, Miami got hella points scored on them earlier in the year by Georgia Southern. Yeah, Georgia Southern. So they should be fine. Clemson should be able to cover. Might even be an over game, but or actually probably not. Never mind. I'm going to take that over remark back. That's not a bet, but I'll definitely take the Clemson minus 18.5.
Yeah. Auburn, Western Kentucky. Auburn coming off of a win against Texas A&M. Western Kentucky can score the ball. I just feel like that Western Kentucky jumping up even to what Auburn is, and it's not great. I'm going to take Auburn minus 5.5. They're at home. I just don't know if Western will have the players to be able to keep up, at least just skill and talent wise.
My next game is Illinois versus Michigan. Michigan is 18-point favorites. I think they cover that. Their running game is very good. And I mean, every week they show that they can demolish teams. And we're going into the week before their rivalry game. Style points. We were talking about it before we started recording. Style points matter at this point, and if they want to maybe jump Ohio State this weekend and then be the higher seed going into their big rivalry game, they're going to need to absolutely demolish Illinois and hope that Ohio State puts up a little bit of a stinker against Maryland.
Yeah. Next one is Georgia Tech, North Carolina. The line is currently North Carolina's favored by 21. Obviously, I think North Carolina is going to win. 21 points is a lot of points. When you look back at the margin of victory for North Carolina over the last 5 games, they've won by 2, won by 3, won by 14, 3. I mean, it's not a whole lot. And so with them playing those close of games, and maybe they actually beat Pitt by 16, excuse me. But with them only winning that close and that margin of victory, and I know Georgia Tech's not very good, I just think this game's going to be maybe 17 points. North Carolina's defense is not great.
My next game is Notre Dame versus Boston College. I've got the over 42.5 as a point total there. Notre Dame, honestly, I'm kind of doing this because there's only 2 weeks left. Notre Dame's offense is hit or miss. I think they should be fine against Boston College, and Boston College can probably score a few points to help out that over. So I'm taking that.
All right, my next one is Texas Tech, Iowa State. I am taking Texas Tech on the road plus 3.5. It's at Ames. It's going to be cold. I don't think it's going to be a high scoring game. I think Tech has enough offense just to get them over the hump, though. I think Iowa State's going to have a hard time scoring.
All right. My next one is Georgia versus Kentucky, also taking the over there. I think Georgia, again, style points matter at this point in the year. Keep that number 1 seed. So, and Stetson Bennett's been good for most of the year. I think he along with the Georgia offense can probably put up 35, 42, probably more by themselves. I think Kentucky getting a few garbage time points.
I've got another one of Ole Miss, Arkansas. I know you talked about that game a little bit earlier. Both teams are coming off of a close loss to Alabama and LSU, respectively. I think Ole Miss goes on the road. They're 2.5-point favorite at Arkansas. I think Ole Miss takes care of business. I think they bounce back. I just don't think Arkansas, their defensive backfield is bad, and I just don't think they're going to be able to score enough to keep up.
All right, 2 more for me. My next one that I'm going to mention is Texas versus Kansas, the rivalry of the century. Kansas has had Texas's number, but Texas is a little bit more improved this year. Their defense doesn't completely stink. Their offense has been suspect over the last couple of weeks. We'll see if they can figure it out. I think they will against this Kansas defense, and Kansas offense I think is going to continue rolling like they have for most of the year. So I'm going to take the over on that game as well. Point total is 63.5.
And my final one is USC and UCLA. Big time game. Number 7 Trojans, number 16 UCLA Bruins. I am taking UCLA plus 2.5. And here's why. I know UCLA is coming off of a stinker against Arizona. USC lost Travis Dye. That's huge. That's a big loss. I think that UCLA is going to be able to bounce back. I think USC has been skating by, and I think it's about time that it catches up with them. And I think UCLA with Chip Kelly and them are able to catch them at this point. Caleb Williams is willing this team to win, and I just don't know if he has the ability to get them past UCLA.
I am sure a lot of Oklahoma fans hope that you are 1,000% right. I hope you do. You are too. I just didn't want to bet that because Caleb Williams is very good. My last one is my regular weekly bet. Iowa under 32.5 points. Fun fact, that is the lowest point total ever given in sports gambling history. They stink. And clearly the sports book does not have very much, don't really see anything in Minnesota's offense to threaten this Iowa defense. If Iowa scores any points, as usual, probably going to be on pick sixes or scoop and scores.
It's pretty pathetic.
They suck.
Yeah.
But, if they do end up firing their head coach, I mean, why not hire him as an assistant or a consultant so that he can just hang out with his cash for a year, help out the DB situation at Oklahoma.
Yeah, never know. So I think that's all we've got. Jose loves the board. He bet almost every single college game. Do you have an individual challenge for the people?
I'll be back with more next week. Lock of the weekend. Give us that if you don't like participating in that, or if you want to also include what your thoughts are on recruiting. I'm sure a lot of you have very differing opinions from us. Some of you probably think Oklahoma is being set up for failure here, and we're going to absolutely shit the bed against Oklahoma State. And others probably think maybe similar to us, where it's an opportunity that they need to take full advantage of.
For sure. So I'm curious to see what people have to say. I'm going to be reading through the comments. Made it this far, we appreciate it. Hit the subscribe button, like the video, turn the notification bell on, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Apple, and Spotify. And everything's linked in the description below. And we will be back for a recap video of Bedlam. And hopefully we were talking about how it was 65-0 Oklahoma. But I don't see that happening. So we'll catch you guys next time.